Something that I have been thinking about so much is how do we use social media consciously? And I've been thinking about this from a brand perspective, as someone who is showcasing my brand online, but also just as a living, breathing human. Is it possible to interact with social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, in a conscious way instead of just following the inevitable brain rot that happens when you're consuming these social media platforms when you wake up, before you go to bed. And so this video is just a conversation on, first of all, what's happening with social media addiction in general, and how do we navigate a world that is so prevalent. If you're not online, then where are you? If you have a brand and you're not online, or if you are interacting with friends and you're not online, it's a different life. Most of us desire to be connected in some way to social media. So how do we balance being connected to that? So first thing that we need to understand is what being conscious with social media means. And also how much of an effect it has on us. What being conscious with social media means is aligning your goals, aligning your values, aligning your vision in alignment with how you are interacting with social media. So real quick, think about the goals that you have. Think about the vision that you have, your 5-year, 10-year plan. How are you interacting with social media? Because there are so many studies out there that show the amount of time that people are spending on social media, and it's something like 6 years. 6 years and 8 months is the amount of time an average person spends on social media. So what could you create in 6 years? And if you are spending 6 years of your life on social media, don't you want it to be extremely conscious? Don't you want it to be in line with the brand you're building, with the privacy that you want to have, with the peace that you want to hold? So let's get conscious about it. Let's talk about what is exactly happening when we are interacting with social media. And I think the first place to go with this is really how addictive it is. And I did some research for this video and found so many studies, honestly, that just talked about the addictive nature of it. And I'm going to reference a couple. University of Chicago study in 2012 showed that social media was more addictive than cigarettes and alcohol. And so it shows that this form of addiction is different than anything we've ever seen before. Cigarettes, alcohol, you already understand. We've already been through waves of addiction of that we're like, oh yeah, like alcohol, yeah, it's addictive. Cigarettes, yeah, they're addictive. And social media is something that we're consuming every day, but no one's really questioning about it. Alcohol, there's usually either certain times of the day or certain periods of the week where you're consuming more of it. Social media, it's like the first thing you wake up, and that's normal. That's not something that, is really like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Versus if you were to have a drink or, have a drink first thing in the morning, people would be like, oh yeah, that's alcoholism. That's an addiction. Versus social media, it's kind of just passed by. But we have to realize that this is a form of addiction. We have to realize that the more time we're spending on it, the more time we're in feelings of comparison, the more times we're susceptible to loneliness, depression, if we're not using it consciously. That was another study that was done in University of Pennsylvania, is reducing your social media use to 30 minutes per day significantly decreased feelings of loneliness and depression. We're in a loneliness pandemic right now. That's what everyone says, right? Everyone is feeling significant loneliness, and social media is a huge, huge aspect of that. And so how do we connect more deeply? How do we connect to our friends when we take away social media? How do we connect with our friends if we only have 30 minutes on social media? How do we connect with our friends and be supportive of our friends if, you know, they're online all the time? And it's questioning, first of all, how you want to interact with social media, how you want to connect with your friends. If connecting on social media feels really good for you to connect with your friends, to reply to, you know, their photos of sunsets or what they have to say in their business, then that is so beautiful. That is a beautiful way to connect when it is done consciously. You know, when it is in that space of, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled to connect with this person. I'm so thrilled to interact with this person. But take it on the other end. Take it on the other end of, I have to interact with this person because if they don't receive my like, my comment, then they'll think that I don't like them. Or take it, you know, like liking something kind of for sympathy or because you feel like obligated to. And on the other end of that is like, okay, is that a genuine connection? Is that a genuine way to support your friend? And this is honestly such a nuanced conversation, because as artists online, as entrepreneurs who are building things online, those comments, those interactions, you know, it doesn't mean that it has to be on every post, but those comments and interactions actually mean a lot to the building of the business, actually mean a lot to, you know, just your ability to hold confidence in what you're creating. When you have interactions and have feedback from what you're creating, it helps a lot. You're like, oh, okay, I can understand what the people are liking. I can understand it a lot. And so how do we connect with our friends? How do we be supportive of our friends? How do we create the connectivity that I think most of us are desiring through social media? And so much of this goes into creating genuine connections offline. Are you connecting with people offline? And what I mean by offline, I don't necessarily mean by like, you know, literally offline. It could be on Zoom chats. It could be in long phone calls. But that longer connection that is more than just a heart or a like or whatever, are you getting that genuine connection? And if it's only online, I encourage you to start having deeper conversations with the people in your real life. I've heard from people, especially people who have really amazing conscious communities online. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't find friendships like this. I can't find, you know, people who are in the same book club as me, like have the same interest as me, or, you know, people who are building this, like that's not available to me online. But the thing is, like, we have to create the intention. If you are spending so much time online, of course you're finding those people online. Think about how much people you would connect with if you were offline, making that intention to connect with people in that realm. There are people right in front of you, right beside you, who you probably would love to connect with, but you're so into what's happening right in front of you with the TikTok, with what's right in front of you, that you forget how much connection you truly desire on a heart-to-heart basis, on a genuine connection level. So if you really desire connection in your life, invite people in for more connection. Have those conversations with friends who are maybe more acquaintances and say, hey, I want to hang out with you more. Hey, let's go to dinner. Hey, let's talk about, you know, deeper conversations. Let's talk about what you like, what your values are, whatever. Have more conversations than, oh my gosh, I love your outfit, I love the weather, which honestly, I love talking about outfits, and honestly, I love the weather, but there are times for deeper conversations. And I think the addiction to social media is what we're really looking for, is that genuine connection, is that genuine intimacy. And so can you start to build those in your outside life? So here are the signs of social media addiction. If you are feeling like you may be addicted, here are some of the signs. And if you are addicted, I just want to tell you here and now, it's okay. It's okay if you're addicted. And genuinely, I believe that you can change this tomorrow. I believe that you can change this right now. Social media addiction is absolutely available for you to change it into, is absolutely available for you to shift out of. So if you're constantly thinking about social media, if you're planning to use it constantly, if you ignore your work, your school, your family due to social media use, if you need to spend more time on social media to get some level of satisfaction, if you feel restless, irritable, or anxious when you're not using it. So if you feel like you're addicted, you're not alone. And the first step is really recognizing it, being super aware of it. For every client that I have that has social media addiction, I always say it's so important to just be aware of what's happening. And sometimes like bringing yourself out into this third person perspective of what am I actually looking at on my phone? Because I think sometimes we get so involved in the eye to phone ratio that we don't even understand what's really happening. We don't understand that we're watching the same vlog about a cabin being built, or, you know, the same vlog about how to do makeup or whatever. These are the things that I watch. And pulling yourself out into a 3D perspective. So literally like pretending like you are a wall or a fly on the wall. And this is basically what meditation is being aware, being the conscious awareness in the room that sees what you're doing, that is aware of what you're doing. And so that's the first step in becoming aware of how addicted you are. I would also encourage you to just check your phone usage in general, like the amount of hours that you spend on social media. It can be very frightening and very confronting at the same time. But these are the things that will help you realize how much you need to change, And from there, from this perspective of, okay, I know that I want to change. I know that I desire to maybe still spend some time on social media, but maybe not spend as much. I encourage you to do a detox, a dopamine detox. We are receiving so much dopamine when we have likes, when we see all of these interactions with other people. And so to remove it completely from your life, or to just be really aware for a whole week. And I really caution you guys, as you go back into it, as you go coming back out of any detox, like think about any food detox that you do, any fast that you do. You don't go right from a fast to a rack of ribs, right? Like you have a little cucumber, a little fruit, and slowly build the amount of food that you have. And so the same with social media. If you are choosing to remove it from your life as you're getting back into it, titrate it in. I think it's really important to be so unapologetically authentic in your content too, if you're creating it. Like no one wants to see anyone performing. And I swear all the time I go on social media and I just see like people following the same trends or like yelling at me at the same things. And that type of content, I swear it's going to pivot out of here soon. I mean, people are always going to love trends of some kind, people dancing or whatever, but there's a call for authenticity in every level. Highly curated content, it has its place, you know. There's times for when you want to make a movie or whatever, but I believe the next generation of people who are creating content, it's going to be authentically confident. And I don't mean authentic that you show your unbrushed hair and you like talk about, oh my God, life is hard. It's like just like talking like you're talking to a real person, not like you're performing. Yeah, really being authentic with social media. And if you're someone who just consumes social media and doesn't create, I would highly encourage you to create, because your friends want to see you, even if it's, just a beach pic or just what you like. People do want to interact with you in some way, and it's a beautiful way to create friendships, to share what you're up to. And yeah, so don't be afraid to create. Don't be afraid to make messy content either. People are down to see the mess. People are down to interact with you on anything that you want to interact with. And so just engage with it. Start engaging with it. Don't be a lurker. And if you are a lurker, then minimize your lurkiness. Minimize that to 30 minutes a day, because the more that we are just on there looking and comparing, it's like that. Every time I think of that, I think of this little kid looking out the window, looking at his friends across the street, like build this amazing fort. And he's just looking across from the window, like wishing that he could be involved. But when you're lurking, you are not expressing yourself. You're not getting involved in the connection that you could. We are meant to be social on social media. So go ahead and be social. Also, unapologetically do whatever you want on social media. A lot of people say to, announce when you're taking a break or say what went down when you took a break. But honestly, like, privacy is such a huge thing, and you don't need to explain yourself. Over explaining yourself is a trauma response. And so just do whatever you want. You don't need to share exactly what went down. You don't need to share all the specifics of your food. You can just share whatever you want and continue just creating in the way that you want. Like once you tap into your own inner voice and what's authentic to you, it becomes a lot easier. It becomes a lot of less second guessing, because you're like, okay, I know who I am. I know what I'm building. I'm driven by my mission. I'm driven by my purpose. And, if you're building a brand online, that's huge to tap into with every post. That's huge to tap into with every communication guide that you have. So, anyways, I regularly take time to change up how I'm interacting with social media. Like I say, I regularly take breaks. And I think everyone should. And if social media is your job, learning to interact with it in a conscious way is so important to not only your mental health, but also your vision. Like if you are all the time thinking about how your social media should be, what your content should be like, then you're not spending time on your actual business. You're not building the actual business. And that's what's truly important. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with 3 questions to ask yourself. 1, what is my social media usage like right now? What are the hours? Like, how do I interact with it? Am I going on there and what's my self-talk? Like, am I comparing or am I feeling inspired? That's question 1. Question 2, what do I want to change about how I interact with it? What do I want to change about how I interact with my belief system going into it? What do I want to change with maybe the feed that I'm consuming, like the people that I'm consuming, or just the lens that I view social media from? Maybe you want to set time limits. There's great apps for that. Maybe you want to take regular social media breaks. Maybe you only want to use social media on the weekend, for example. And yeah, those two questions are so important. I guess the middle question should be like, what are your values? What is your alignment with social media? And those two things are honestly all you need to think about with social media to have a healing relationship with it. Is it possible to be conscious with social media? 100%. It's possible. It's absolutely possible, but it's something that we have to be aware of. We have to consciously step back and choose how we are interacting with it instead of just doing the predictable. I hope that was helpful. I am going to go spend the rest of my day honestly creating content for social media because that's how I interact with the people in my life. That's how I interact with my clients. And I'm so excited to do that. I am so excited to get on camera and create content for you guys from this place of authenticity, from this place of I'm not performing, from this place of I don't need to explain myself. And I encourage you guys to have beliefs similar to that. Comment below what was helpful, if you learned anything, if you had any realizations, or just comment and say, hey, I am so thrilled to be doing YouTube and I would love to hear from you. Sending you guys so much love. Talk to you soon.